Metropolitan Hilarion was recently suspended. Stick around to find out why. Well, we've been seeing Metropolitan Hilarion in the news a lot lately. Of course, this was at one point the right hand man of Patriarch Kirill, the Patriarch of Moscow. And we saw him come up in the news not long ago because we noticed that he flip flopped on his comments on Catholicism. He had originally said back in 2021, I believe, whenever the Pope confirmed that the church cannot bless homosexuality and homosexual unions, we saw him say, hey, you know what? We agree with this as Eastern Orthodox. So Catholics and Orthodox are in agreement on this point. But then we saw him flip flop because whenever Fiducia Supplicans came out, and it reconfirmed that the church can't bless homosexual unions, we saw a lot of confusion in the media, how people were twisting the words of the document, trying to make it seem like the Pope is talking about blessing gay relationships whenever it was clear that's not what the document was doing. And Pope Francis even subsequently clarified he's talking about blessing persons, not a union, not a relationship. Well, we saw because there was so much negativity surrounding this document, all of a sudden Hilarion flip flopped and he wanted to say, hey, this is a departure from the Catholic teaching and from Eastern Orthodoxy. And it left a lot of people wondering, why is he doing this? Because the Vatican is just reasserting what it said before. And before he commended the Vatican, saying that's what the Orthodox position is. But then all of a sudden, when there's some bad news and controversy surrounding this new document, he flip flops and he tries to distance Orthodoxy from the Vatican's document. And it seemed very disingenuous. And I called it out at the time and showed that contradiction with him. And then we saw not long after that, he led a biblical commission, an Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox biblical commission, in condemning Pope Francis and Fiducia Supplicans. And I called it out at the time saying, look, this is incredibly disingenuous because they're actually condemning what Eastern Orthodox would fundamentally agree with. So to come out and condemn the Pope for this seems very disingenuous on their part. And he was, of course, the head of that group. So I said, well, I'm not really surprised with their decision because it's led by Hilarion, who flip-flopped on this issue. Well, we saw him come up in the news for those things. Now he is in the news again because there are some allegations that are made about him that he's denying. But there are certainly some material out there in public. We'll take a brief look at them that are definitely concerning. Again, he denies the allegations. They are of a sexual nature concerning one of his subdeacons. He is accusing him of certain misconduct. Again, Hilarion denies it. Hilarion is also suing for defamation. But we saw not only that news broke, but then the Russian Orthodox Synod of Bishops temporarily suspended Hilarion while conducting this investigation. So let's take a look at it and explore it together to see what exactly is going on with Metropolitan Hilarion. Okay, so here's something posted by CNA. Russian Orthodox Bishop of Budapest, Hungary, suspended following reports of sexual misconduct. Here you can see him with Putin. There's plenty of videos with him and Pope Francis as well, as he's a noteworthy kind of go-between between the Pope and the Russian Orthodox Patriarch of Moscow. Russian Orthodox Bishop Hilarion Alfayev of Budapest, Hungary, has been temporarily suspended following reports about an opening investigation of sexual misconduct with a young staff member. According to the online news site Novaya Europe, Georgie Suzuki, who served as the bishop's personal assistant between October 2022 and January 2024, was sexually harassed on several occasions by the 58-year-old high-ranking prelate, at least according to that um, this news source. So these are allegations. Alfayev has reportedly denied all allegations made by Suzuki. Earlier this month, Church Times reported that 11 Russian Orthodox priests in Budapest signed a joint statement defending Alfayev, who they believe is innocent and a victim of dirty, slanderous campaign. Yesterday, Novaya Europe published several photos as well as details of private messages shared between Suzuki and Alfayev, highlighting the bishop's sexually inappropriate behavior and materially excessive lifestyle. Alfayev reportedly purchased mansions in France and Hungary, as well as as expensive watches, and spent holidays on yachts and at expensive beach resorts. Though Suzuki told Novaya Europe that Alfayev's advances never led to sexual encounters, he said that he and his family suffered coercion, blackmail, and retaliation from the bishop, who in turn accused Suzuki of sexually inappropriate behavior. The Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church has appointed Metropolitan Bishop Nestor of Korsun and Western Europe as temporary administrator of the Budapest, Hungary diocese, while investigations are underway. So you can see here that the allegations are that he, behaved in an inappropriate manner, but it never actually led to a sexual encounter. However, Alfayev, is then in turn accusing Suzuki of sexually inappropriate behavior. In 2022, Kirill, the Patriarch of Moscow, dismissed Alfayev as president of the Department of External Church Relations and as a permanent member of the Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church. That same year, he was removed as Metropolitan Bishop of Volokholamsk and then transferred to Hungary and appointed as Metropolitan Bishop of Budapest. 2022 article published by the Orthodox Times speculates that his dismissal 2 years ago were not linked to sexual misconduct, but due to the bishop's mild stance on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which contrasted to that of Kirill and his full identification with the Russian government's hard line of Ukraine. In light of the publicity of the allegations of sexual misconduct by former church worker Suzuki, the Russian Orthodox Church has created a special committee to further investigate the case against Alfayev. So you can also see orthochristian.com is reporting on this. Synod temporarily suspends Metropolitan Hilarion while commission investigates accusations made against him, and they're effectively just reiterating the same information we read through. Orthodox Times is also commenting on it. The Moscow Patriarch has suspended Metropolitan Hilarion and effectively repeats the same information. This is the article that came up several weeks prior to the suspension from orthochristian.com, July 18th, noting that there are serious accusations leveled against Metropolitan Hilarion of Budapest. Hierarch says he's being blackmailed. So let's take a look at it. On July 5th, Novaya Europe published a lengthy piece containing a number of serious allegations of His Eminence. The accusations are made by George Suzuki, Metropolitan Hilarion's former subdeacon and assistant. The Metropolitan tells the outlet that the accusations, especially of sexual harassment, are a baseless attempt at blackmail. So he's accusing of sexual harassment, but it seems he's also saying that, it never actually led to a sexual encounter. There's a lot of questions here. After Metropolitan Hilarion moved to the Diocese of Budapest, 18-year-old Suzuki offered to help him as a subdeacon and assistant. In October 2022, he moved to Hungary. He later moved into the Metropolitan's apartment to help with the housework. That just sounds really weird. That just sounds so off to me. I don't know about that one, guys. He accuses the Metropolitan of leading a luxurious lifestyle with a number of properties in Europe. It was during a trip to a dacha in France that Suzuki says the first physical contact happened with the Metropolitan, ostensibly trying to warn the young man who was suffering from a fever. He alleges that Metropolitan Hilarion then began regularly sleeping in the same bed with him, though he specifies that there was never any sexual contact. Hmm. Okay. Well, Suzuki says he was under constant psychological pressure from Metropolitan Hilarion and his assistants, and he began to record conversations, many of which he shared with Novaya Gazeta. And they're unfortunately, not in English, so we can't go through them unless somebody can make them available in English. In January 2024, Suzuki told Metropolitan Hilarion he needed to go to the doctor and flew home to Japan. It was later discovered that he had stolen an expensive watch and money totaling 32,000 euros from the Metropolitan's house, as seen on security footage. A criminal case has been opened against Suzuki in Hungary. His Eminence categorically denies the accusations of sexual harassment and says that he will file a defamation lawsuit. After Suzuki left, Metropolitan Hilarion sent emails offering to send him money. That is concerning. Why would he do that? Again, if this is true, why would he do that? According to the Metropolitan, the young man often spoke of his poor health and his family's poverty, and he wanted to help. He made this offer before discovering that items were missing from his safe. Are you buying that? According to Suzuki, money was offered for him and his mother to erase all video and audio recordings. Novaya Gazeta published a screenshot of an email said to be from Metropolitan Hilarion, in which he writes, "Let this money be a testimony of my sincere regret for all the mistakes made." And we will look at that screenshot here in a moment. However, Suzuki's mother rejected the offer of monthly payments, instead demanding a lump sum for 16 years in advance, 420,000 euros, or dollars, and 384,000 euros, saying she would use it to do something good for George. According to her, he now regularly visits a therapist. Conversely, Metropolitan Hilarion told RIA Novosti that it was Suzuki's mother who blackmailed him, offering to erase all footage in exchange for money. So you can see the accusations are back and forth. No, he harassed me. No, he harassed me. Oh, he blackmailed me. No, he blackmailed me. And yeah, this isn't good. Furthermore, Metropolitan Hilarion says he later learned that this woman only poses as George's mother, having him psychologically under control. When she would visit George in Budapest, he completely dropped all his duties, which caused disruption to liturgical services, and did whatever she said. The woman demanded that Metropolitan Hilarion pay for a 7-week stay at an expensive hotel and for all her excursions. When her demands were not met, she concocted a scheme to extort money from him, the Metropolitan says. Moreover, according to His Eminence, during the investigation of the theft, evidence of other crimes was uncovered, including that Suzuki held a fake Russian driver's license, which he used to get a Hungarian license, and that he accessed and saved child pornography. At this point, Metropolitan Hilarion realized he had to withdraw his offer of monthly payments to George and his suspended mother. Suzuki admits that he used a fake license that he had registered on gay dating sites and viewed pornography, but completely denies the charges of child pornography. On July 10th, the Hungarian diocese published an open letter from its clergy in support of their hierarch. They write, "It's very important that for us that the bishop constantly lives among us. For 2 years now, Hilarion has been with us every week. He serves in the Holy Dormition Cathedral, regularly visits the parishes of the diocese, communicates with the clergy, laity, and recently visited a children's camp for the 3rd time. We see Vladika every day. We love him. We value his presence among us." Okay, so if you look at the Europa website, this is a Google Translate version. Let's see here. Let me try to, get back to that Google Translate here. Here we go. Works and Days of Metropolitan Hilarion is what it's roughly translated into English as. And it has a lot of stuff here. Some of this isn't in English, obviously, but we can make out some of it. I mean, here you can see Hilarion and his subdeacon Suzuki. Here is a screenshot of Suzuki. Talks a little bit about how the head of the church's Ministry of Foreign Affairs found himself in exile and acquired a new cell attendant. It goes through some of the stuff. It then addresses or shows videos of Suzuki on YouTube, but this isn't in English, so I can't really play it. But for anybody who can, I believe that's in Russian, anybody who can read or understand Russian, you have this available to you. I put a link to it in the show notes. There's some additional audio files that they have backing up some of this stuff. Let's see what it says here. According to Suzuki, he was under constant psychological pressure. And in September 2023, when he tried to express his dissatisfaction, he began to receive threats from him. Hilarion, the Metropolitan, stated that if they broke up, the young man could have problems. After some time, Suzuki asked the Metropolitan a question: "What will happen if I leave you?" And he recorded Hilarion's answer on audio. In the recording, Hilarion says that Georgie will feel bad and nothing will work out for him. And then they have that audio.
Вы думаете, что я вас брошу?
Ну, этого не исключаю.
Если я вас брошу, то что?
A little hard to hear that. But again, I have a link to it in the show notes if you want to go and check it out. In another recording, Hilarion forbids Suzuki to put on pajamas before going to bed. Georgie says that he is cold, but Hilarion replies, "You are not cold." The audio recording is at the disposal of the editors. According to Suzuki, the Metropolitan said that he wanted to feel him with his skin and lay him down like a father. Several times, Georgie locked the room. Then Hilarion would knock on the door, and Georgie had to open it. Suzuki says that sometimes he avoided nighttime contact with Hilarion, citing poor health. And this greatly angered the Metropolitan. The next day, he was nervous. The editorial board has video recordings of Hilarion in his underwear sitting on a bed with an almost naked Suzuki. Georgie spoke in detail about Hilarion's harassment in an interview, and you can see it's an interview here on YouTube, but again, I believe that's Russian. So, at the same time, Hilarion himself convinced George that they needed to live together. In one of the recordings, he claims that he bought a mansion in Hungary so that George would be better there with him, and in another, he says that all his cell attendants left him for one reason, and that reason was a woman. And here's some more audio recordings that they provide. Suzuki says that the atmosphere in Hilarion's house was such that it was impossible to express disagreement with the Metropolitan. According to him, the key role in this was played by Hilarion's second, more experienced cell attendant, who humiliated Georgie and sent him at odds with his mother when she came to visit her son. In one of the recordings made by Suzuki, Lee talks with Hilarion and says that someone must raise him very harshly and painfully through tears and pain. So Deacon Lee, in a conversation with a Novaya Europa correspondent, said that his words were connected with Suzuki's professional incompetence. Lee claims that during his mother's visit to Hungary, Georgie did not fulfill his duties as Deacon's assistant, which is why additional work fell on Lee himself. Hilarion calls the accusations of sexual harassment by Georgie Suzuki groundless and promises to file a slander lawsuit. Without denying the authenticity of the illegal recordings made by Suzuki, the Metropolitan emphasizes that he did not have sex with his cell attendant. But you know that could certainly still be a problem, though, because there could be some inappropriate behavior even if there wasn't actual sex going on, and so it's a little disturbing to see this. He considers the topic of his relationship with Georgie too personal and is not ready to develop it. Hilarion also stated that he does not consider it possible to comment on the conflict in essence, since Suzuki is allegedly wanted by Interpol. If I start saying something, it could harm the investigation, Hilarion said. He also refused to answer the question on whether he owns real estate in France, where, according to Suzuki, they spent time together. This just isn't sounding good for Hilarion, to be honest with you. I sure hope that he's entirely innocent, but there are some images here, there are videos, there is audio that certainly does not cast the Metropolitan in a favorable light. So, but hey, there's always two sides to every story. We'll see. We'll see. Now it talks about how Hilarion publicly fights homosexuals, and so it goes a little bit over about his perspective on that. How Hilarion became the owner of an estate in Hungary. It goes a little bit over that. Here you can see Hilarion in this photo and over here. So in several of these photos, and they're from George Suzuki. So you can see Suzuki and Hilarion are, going to the beach, going skiing, and other places. Some of the photos shared by Suzuki indicate that he enjoyed a comfortable life with Hilarion. They went to restaurants together, vacation at ski resorts, and in his free time, the young man went sailing. And so here you can see Suzuki and Hilarion. I don't know why Suzuki is holding a giant teddy bear here, but there he is. Here's Hilarion laying on bed, and I have a question here. I do have a sincere question. Do you notice what he's laying on, Hilarion? I mean, that really looks like Hilarion, right? Do you notice what he's laying on? It looks like he's laying on a male. Here you can see somebody's shirt, and here you can see the beginning of their pants here in blue. I can tell you this, as a heterosexual male, I would never go for that. Okay, I'm not laying on another guy in his chest like this, and another guy's not laying on my chest like that. This is the kind of intimacy that you would expect between a husband and a wife. This is not the position that a heterosexual male, let alone a celibate clergyman, should be engaged in. So this is why I'm saying, like, there's some serious and concerning stuff that Suzuki is providing here. And I this one, I don't know if that one can be explained away, guys. I really don't think that can be. Again, maybe two sides to the story. Guys, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good. I'm sorry. Not when you mix this. First of all, that alone already is pretty incriminating. But you consider this in the context of everything else. It's concerning. It's very concerning. An archbishop laying on a younger guy's chest in bed, Matthew Schmidt says. That's what it looks like. Do you see this is clearly a chest? Here's the little Polo logo. I got a lot of these shirts, so I know exactly what that is. That's the Polo logo. It goes right here on your chest. So this is clearly a guy's chest right there. And then there's clearly, some pants right here, and Hilarion's laying on his shoulder. In a very close position to his lower area. There's just no setting in which this is ever appropriate for a heterosexual male, let alone a celibate archbishop. Like, oh, and of course they're in bed together. It would seem, you can clearly see a bed here. So, okay, I think I made the point there, though. Let's continue. During their life together, Suzuki's phone accumulated evidence of the hierarch's luxurious life. For example, a contract for the purchase of a 2,360 square meter estate for 2 million euros in the suburbs of Budapest. Here you can see Suzuki again, a mansion in the suburbs of Budapest with Georgie Suzuki. According to the contract, Hilarian's mansion will have 14 rooms, a swimming pool, a gym, a wine cellar, and parking for 6 cars. This is the plan of the mansion provided by George Suzuki. And one of the recordings made by Georgie Hilarion tells how he sold his collection of expensive wine to buy furniture for his house for 15,000 euros.
Вина, которые вы дарили, коллекционные вина. Не дарили.
A little hard to hear.
У меня часто
Plus, I don't believe that's in English. So, so anybody who speaks Russian, y'all will need to go through this and listen to it. In another recording, Hilarion says that he received money for the mansion from the sale of his apartment on Arbat and donations from sponsors. According to Georgie, Hilarion convinced his sponsors that the money would go towards building a hermitage, that is, a monastic abode. Hilarion calls his house a hermitage in the recording, but then corrects himself and admits that he owns a castle. And then they have 13 minutes of audio. Again, the audio I can't verify because I don't speak Russian. So some of y'all need to go through that and maybe put your comments there in the comment section after y'all go through it. Hilarion spends his free time in a luxurious mansion, receives guests, throws feasts, and rides an electric scooter. Okay. Here you can see.
Но тут бывает иногда скользко.
Here's Hilarion on his scooter. Okay.
Но тут бывает иногда скользко.
I don't know what the purpose of that is, but it looks a little fun. Maybe I need to get one of those scooters. I'll use it once or twice, and then it will end up in a closet somewhere, never to be used again. All right. I'm not sure what the scooter video does in establishing anything, but okay, there it is. There's a scooter. Georgie claims that among Hilarion's sponsors, there could have been several major businessmen, including those under sanctions. And he gives some names. The Metropolitan talks about the meeting with Avin, at which Hilarion will speak with him one-on-one to understand whether he will help, and another recording made by Suzuki, and then they got 60 minutes of that. Hilarion does not deny that he is the owner of an estate in Hungary. He claims that the purchase of the property and his non-monastic lifestyle should be explained by author's fees that he received from his numerous books and films, which can be read about on Wikipedia. So he's claiming, hey, this is because, I got author fees, and that's how I purchased for this. Whereas Suzuki is saying actually some of the funds that he used for this estate have come from him saying that it's to go for a hermitage. Hilarion states that he did not receive sponsorship money for the purchase of the estate in Hungary. At the same time, the Metropolitan clarifies with a Novaya Europa correspondent whether Georgie Suzuki named the sponsors and insists that the estate is planned as a skeet and even a monastery. Okay. So then it talks a little bit about how Hilarion secured the support of a NATO country government and became a Hungarian. Looks like there's a photo of Pope Francis meeting Suzuki very briefly there. Not unusual because, again, Pope Francis has met with Metropolitan Hilarion many times because, again, Hilarion is kind of that go-between between the Patriarch of Moscow and the Pope in many instances. Hilarion does not hide his friendship with the top officials of Hungary. They were frequent guests at his church, and during the year of living with the Metropolitan, Georgie collected many joint photographs with them, and you can see some of this here. Another photo saved in Georgie's phone is Hilarion's Hungarian passport, in which the citizenship column indicates Hungarian. Why does he have access to this stuff? Suzuki, that is just weird. It's like, okay, all right, I can tell you this. My wife has access to my driver's license, my passport, stuff like that. That's my wife, though. I don't see another guy having access to any of that. I'm not giving another guy that. It's just weird. I don't know. The photograph of the document shows that the date of the issue is only 3 months different from the date of Hilarion's appointment to Hungary. That is, Hilarion received the country's citizenship within a few weeks of entering the country, an unheard of precedent for a country of the European Union, possible only in the case of direct sanction from the top officials. I don't know what that establishes, but there it is. How Hilarion tried to bribe his former cell attendant and became a victim of his greed, they say. In January 2024, George decided to flee after convincing Hilarion that he needed to take a blood test in Budapest. He left the parish grounds, left the country, and returned to Japan. Before leaving, he took an expensive watch and money from Hilarion's house. Suzuki claims that after many months of living in fear, he was unable to assess the situation sensibly and decided that having Hilarion's valuables would help him avoid further pressure from the Metropolitan, which he even reported to the Japanese embassy. It was in connection with this compensatory theft that a criminal case was opened against Suzuki in Hungary. After Georgie's escape, Hilarion sent him letters of apology and negotiated with the Suzuki family about the amount for which they would agree to forget about what happened. Copies of the letters are at the editorial office's disposal. One of the first letters that Hilarion sent to Georgie after his escape was titled Forgiveness. In it, he said that the money would be evidence of sincere regret for all mistakes made. Well, here's something, but that appears to be in Russian, so I don't know. There it is, though. In one of the following messages, Hilarion spoke of his remorse and thoughts of suicide. And then it has that screenshot. I can't verify this stuff, guys, so I need some of y'all to maybe check into that. Put it in the comment section if these screenshots confirm what they claim. I suspect they do, because I don't see them posting screenshots of something else. At first, Hilarion offered to pay George 2,000 euros monthly, but then he agreed to the offer of George's mother to pay the money in one lump sum for 16 years in advance. According to Veronica, she realized that she could no longer trust the Metropolitan's promises and refused her offer. And then it's got that screenshot. Hilarion insists that this is about blackmail on the part of Veronica Suzuki. According to him, the initial reason for this conflict with Georgie could have been his mother's greed. A woman who saw that I had, as she believed, a lot of money, decided that she needed to take advantage of it, Hilarion says. Look, guys, I don't know how any of that confirms some of the stuff. Like, how does that explain this? Okay, let me just go back. A picture says 1,000 words. I'm sorry, how does any of this explain this away? Claiming that Suzuki's mother is just greedy. She's trying to get money out of him. That doesn't explain this photo. Period. So I think it's pretty clear which side seems more credible at the moment. Now, look, always two sides to every story. I get that. Open to that. But I don't see what side would explain this one away. Dude's laying on somebody's chest, and it's clearly a male. And the male is clearly taking a selfie of it. Christbearer says, part of the email says, I was haunted by thoughts of suicide, and I wondered what would be better, to swim across Lake Geneva in winter, or drown in the middle from hypothermia, or to rent a car. Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. Let's continue here. Scrolling down. How Hilarion threatened his cell attendant in his sermons. Okay. After George's family stopped responding to Hilarion's letters, he began to address them in his sermons, encrypting in them messages to George and his mother. Hilarion dedicated one of his sermons to the son of the biblical forefather Noah, Ham, who saw his father naked and began to mock him, for which he was cursed. According to Hilarion, today the sin of Ham is very widespread. and there are even entire publications that specialize in publishing such footage. I don't know if that's a veiled reference to Suzuki. I don't know. Here is another example of Hilarion's public appeal to George, a video on his educational portal Jesus called Because There Was a Thief, clearly referring to the theft of that George committed. Then they post a YouTube video. The video includes the phrase, if Judas started stealing, it means that another value appeared in his life beside the teacher. One excerpt from the video leaves no doubt about the presence of a coded message to Georgie's family. Suzuki's mother, Veronica Suzuki, reportedly told Hilarion that she had an autoimmune disease and even came to Hungary for treatment. In the video, Hilarion says it cannot be ruled out that he stole for a good purpose. For example, that he had a mother who needed expensive treatment. Okay, maybe I could see that as a reference to the Suzuki stuff in the sermons, but okay, that all right. So he's talking about him in his sermons. That doesn't really establish a whole lot. In a conversation with Novaya Europa, Hilarion claims that he did not use the sermon as a threat to the Suzuki family, but was merely inspired by the image. The Metropolitan then adds that if the story told by Georgie is published, new criminal articles will be added to the existing one, and particular accusations of using forged documents as well as slander. So he's saying, hey, I'm going to, I'm going to dive into some more lawsuits with you guys if y'all publish more information. After the conversation with Novaya Europa, Hilarion urgently fled to Moscow. Our sources in the Russian Orthodox Church believe that the Metropolitan could have used his trip for additional consultations on the consequences of the scandal. Epilogue: the Hungarian authorities are still investigating the theft in the Hungarian diocese and are searching for Suzuki. Hilarion may also accuse Suzuki of filming on private property without permission and using forged documents, a driver's license. One of the letters that Georgie shared with the editors, the Metropolitan also accuses his cell attendant of storing child pornography, which he allegedly learned about by gaining access to the browser history on Georgie's phone. Georgie's mother, Suzuki, may be accused by Hilarion of extortion and blackmail. Suzuki admits that he took the Metropolitan's things and was filming, but emphasizes he did it for his own protection. Georgie completely denies the accusations of storing child pornography. He admits that he watched porn on his phone and registered on gay dating sites. Well, let me pause there. Okay. So you got a guy, he was 18, maybe a little older. Hilarion makes him his subdeacon. The guy admits he is registered on gay dating apps. And Hilarion is clearly in this image laying on his chest. Does anything else need to be said? Anything else? Let's go where we left off. Now he calls it a sin, but says that his actions contradicted church morality, but not the law. Suzuki claims that Veronica Suzuki claims that she only needed the money to compensate for Georgie's psychological damage and pay for doctors, according to her. And after the incident, Georgie regularly visits a psychologist and a psychotherapist and practically does not leave the house. An independent expert on the Russian Orthodox Church on condition of anonymity confirmed to Novaya Europa that rumors had long been circulating in Hilarion's circle about his relationship with the altar boys. Yikes. That's not good. However, according to the expert, Georgie's actions are similar to a common practice in the church when a young man gains the trust of a hierarch and even seeks intimate relations with him for subsequent blackmail. The situation when some novice gains the trust of a bishop, receives photographs of his private life, and then demands a ransom for them is quite common, the expert says. Well, That unfortunately doesn't explain this photo right here. Okay, that doesn't explain that one right there in the middle, the center photo of Hilarion laying on someone's chest that is clearly a male on a bed in a very concerning position. Um, and presumably the person's chest that he's laying on is Suzuki, because Suzuki is the one who posted the photos. Photos courtesy of George Suzuki. So I have to assume that's Suzuki in the photo that he's laying on. So if this is just Suzuki trying to blackmail, an innocent Metropolitan, that doesn't explain this photo. It seems to me like there may be something else going on with that relationship than just blackmail. It seems that they were overly comfortable physically with each other. Okay. A lawyer who claims to represent Suzuki in Hungary himself provided his contact information to the editorial office, but declined to give his name, argues that Hilarion's accusations are unfounded. According to him, filming on private property is not illegal unless the intent is to illegally gain access to private or commercial secrets. Regarding Georgie's theft charges, the lawyer argues that the key factor in determining his guilt is motivation. If Georgie took the items to keep them or return them only for a fee to receive payment, this would be considered theft. If he wanted to use it as a tool or leverage for negotiations, this would be considered theft. If the intent was to return them immediately upon arrival in Japan, this would not be theft, since there is no intent to illegally appropriate them. When asked about the validity of Georgie's mother's accusations of blackmail, the lawyer responded as follows: negotiating any legal claims, even on behalf of another person, is not blackmail. Even if the claim is illegal and the negotiations involve extortion, it may be blackmail. For example, mentioning that a person's personal life will be at risk if he or she does not accept the offer may be considered blackmail, especially if the claim is unlawful and the threat is real. So, yeah, like I said, I have a link to this in the show notes where y'all can go through some of this material in more detail. But to me, the thing that seals the deal is that middle photo right there. That tells me there appears to be more going on than Metropolitan Hilarion has admitted. And I would love to hear Metropolitan Hilarion's explanation of this picture. Would he suggest that that's not him in the photo? It certainly looks like him. If that's not him, that's his twin. What is his thoughts about this? What is he going to say? I'm curious. I'm also curious what the Russian Orthodox Synod is going to conclude after they do their investigation. Again, they have temporarily suspended him. And that is in order to investigate these claims. I wonder what their outcome is going to be, especially in light of this photo right here. Is this ever appropriate? That's a question that I want to know from y'all. What do you think? Is this ever appropriate for a metropolitan? A man who's supposed to be celibate, to lay on another man's chest like this? Is this ever appropriate? Ever? Can you think of a situation where this would be appropriate? Or is this always inappropriate? And my other question is, can you tell me of a situation where a heterosexual male would lay on another male like this? I can't think of an example where a heterosexual male would lay on another man's chest like this. I'm sorry, I can't. I cannot. This is the kind of intimacy that is enjoyed between a husband and a wife, not two heterosexual males, or a heterosexual male allegedly and a self-admitted homosexual male. But I'd love to hear from y'all. Do y'all think that this can be explained away? Or do you think that there's something going on? Somebody says here, I mean, zoom in. I see no other person in that middle photo. Really? You don't see another person? Okay. So this shirt right here, this polo shirt, you can clearly see like the collar to it right here. You could clearly see the polo logo right here. Would you say that's like part of the bed or something? Is that the position? That's a bed? Is that what you're saying? No, that's not adding up. Is that a pillow to you? No, that doesn't add up. This looks like a man's chest. Right here are a man's abs, and then here's his pants right there in blue. And you can see that's not the color of the bed because the bed over here is in white. This looks like he is laying on another man. So if you're going to argue that's not another man that he's laying on, I'm sorry. I just really looks like another guy. I don't see it. And again, it says some of the photos shared by Suzuki indicate that he himself enjoyed a comfortable life with Hilarion. They went to restaurants together, vacation at ski resorts. And in his free time, the young man went sailing. And then according to Suzuki, they would sometimes sleep in the same bed together. So how is this not another male that he's laying on? It sure looks like Suzuki lying on the bed. So I don't think that can just be explained away. But I don't know. What do y'all think? Do y'all put your thoughts there in the comment section? Do y'all think that that's not a guy that he's laying on? Like, am I missing it? Hey, if I'm missing it and I'm misrepresenting Metropolitan Hilarion, hey, I'm more than happy to set the record straight. I definitely don't want to falsely accuse anybody. But to me, that looks like he's laying on another man. I don't know how people don't see that. It looks like he's laying on a man, and the man is taking the photo like that, a selfie of them laying together. Observing YT says it could be platonic, but it adds suspicion. I see. That's my concern. I honestly can't think of an instance where this is ever appropriate between two males. I don't see how that's ever platonic. This is not a neutral act. Laying on a guy's armpit and chest and abs, and his legs would. His arms would be going on to his leg. Like, that's just never. That's not platonic. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. With all due respect for anybody who disagrees, I just don't see it, y'all. The age discrepancy is what it makes it so weird. I think it's more than just that. I mean, there's obviously an age discrepancy issue. But I think regardless of the age, this is never appropriate. So I don't see how that would be the most disturbing factor. So I don't see it. Didn't the Apostle John lay his head on Jesus's chest? I'm pretty sure he didn't lay on his chest in a bed in this position. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. I'd love to hear your thoughts, though. Put them in the comment section. If y'all get a chance to go through that article and maybe translate some of it, that'd be helpful if y'all could put it in the comments. I would appreciate it. Again, always two sides to every story. Hilarion's denying some of the accusations and is suing for defamation and is saying that it was Suzuki who initiated sexually inappropriate behavior, and it's Suzuki who's flipping it and saying the opposite. But The photos don't look good for Metropolitan Hilarion. The audio doesn't seem good from the few instances that I could verify. The emails don't look good from the few instances that I could verify. But I guess more to come. Again, two sides to every story, so we'll see what ends up transpiring from this. But I wanted to bring this to y'all's attention. Anyways, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check me out at patreon.com/reason and theology if you want to support the channel. And share this with anyone on your social media that you think might benefit from it. And again, if you appreciate the content that you see here on this channel, do consider supporting me on Patreon. That would be much appreciated. All right. We'll see y'all later. God bless.